Hello everyone, in this tutorial we'll be talking about a new way of authenticating our users in our API. And normally we used to use something called token authentication, okay? And basically token authentication was a key that the API generates when a user registers in our API or database, okay? And basically it is a key that's linked to the user's account, and whenever this user needs to access some data from the API or post or request, the user needs to use this token key, okay? And this is not the only way to authenticate a user or a request to our API. The other way that we need to talk about in this tutorial is the JWT, which is JSON Web Token. And what is special about it, or why we would need to use JWT? Basically, if we need to reduce the database lookups in our API, JWT will be our first option, because JWT tokens, which are two tokens, an access token and a refresh token, they don't get stored in our database. Basically, when we request a token, the token gets generated and then we can use it to authenticate our user in our API. And I think it's pretty good way of authenticating users, especially knowing that it's not getting stored in the database, which makes it less vulnerable, okay? There is a downside of that as well, which is I'm gonna mention at the end of this tutorial. But for now, let's dive deep and let's see how can we implement JWT or JSON Web Token in our REST Framework API. To do that, we're gonna implement, or we're gonna use something called JWT Simple, or what's called Simple JWT. And I'll leave a link in the description for the documentation. And to get started, we need just to pip install it. So first, let's go to our project and let's open a new terminal. And first thing first, we need to activate our virtual environment, okay? So it's in the parent folder. Let's activate it. Scripts activate. And then let's navigate to our project folder, and then here we can install the Simple JWT. Let's copy this, paste it here, and that's it, it's installed. So now let's go back to the documentation and see how can we implement Simple JWT in our project. So here it says in our REST framework authentication settings, we need to add the JWT authentication. So I'm going to copy this, and inside here previously we used the token authentication, so I'm going to comment this out and then add the REST framework Simple JWT authentication, JWT authentication. Okay, one other thing I need to do here, you remember, we left this permissions as allow any because we needed to perform post and get request easily without having to add a token to the header. So now we need to change this to is authenticated to be able to test the JWT authentication. Let's save that, and then now we need to add the endpoints of the API token or the JWT token to our URL file. And to do that, simply we need to import two classes here, the REST framework Simple JWT views. Let's copy that and go to our URLs, and then we'll add the two endpoints, which are these here. I want to add them after the Rest-Auth registration here. Okay, let's delete this. And now, as you see, the first endpoint, it's API token, which is used to generate the token for the user. The second one used to refresh the token, because this token is kind of temporary, or it has a short life time, which means it gets expired. So, and it's a very good thing about it, and we might need to generate another one to grant an access for the user to our API. So we'll use the token refresh. And let's save this. And now I think that's it. Let's take a look at on the documentation. Yeah, that's all we need for now. And then now we can run our server. Run server. And what we need to do is we need to go and use our posts app, which we created in previous tutorials, and then we will use it to test the authentication. So I'll use Postman to demonstrate that process. And first thing first, we need to get the token or the JWT access token, because now if we just go to posts and perform a GET request, it'll say authentication credential were not provided. And how we're going to fix this? We need to authenticate the user. To do that, we need to perform a post request, because API token accepts post requests. So let's perform that. And we paste it here. And if we perform a post request, it'll ask us for username and password. And as you remember, when we used the token authentication, we sent a request to the login endpoint, and we provided username and password, and we got the token back from our database. In the JWT authentication, we provide the username, password, and we perform a request to the API token, and the two tokens, which is the access token and the refresh token, gets generated. They are not stored in the database, they just get generated. And to achieve that, let's go to the body and then add username, which is my API, and password, And now that we provided the username and password, we will perform the request again, the post request. And as you see here, we got back a refresh and access tokens. So in order to perform requests to the API, we need to use the access token. So where to implement this, we need to add it to our to the header of each request. So let's copy this, and now let me just add the endpoint for the posts. Okay, let's go to get request. And now it's telling me authentication credentials were not provided. So if I go to the header, and normally with token authentication, we add the authentication token, and then between two quotes here, we add the token key. Now, this type of token is called, or the JWT token is a barrier token. Okay, so we need to add here barrier, and then space, and then paste the token. Okay, and now we can perform the GET request. And as you see here, we got authenticated and we got all our data back. So basically, if you're gonna check this token, it's not stored in our database. And that's very important if you wanna save or reduce the amount of lookups into your database. The downside for using JWT or JSON Web Token is that it can't be revoked. And it can't be revoked, which means once the user once the user gets access or gets the access token, you can't revoke this access token. You can't just prevent this user from accessing your API. And that's when RefreshToken comes in place, where you can always generate new tokens for the user, so the token gets expired, or the access token gets expired. And to demonstrate that, if let's say our access token is expired, and now let's go to request the posts, and then using GET request, and we have this the same access token that we used just now, and then let's perform a GET request. And you see here, as you see, the response is saying here it's a token class, and it's saying the type of the token, it's an access token, but it's telling me token is invalid or expired. And in this case, we need to refresh the token or generate another access token using the API token refresh endpoint. Okay, and in order to do that, we need to add the refresh key that we received when we requested the JWT tokens. And because I didn't save that, so I need to request another access tokens like this token, and we'll do a post request, and then we don't need this, and let's add the username and password just by checking this here, and then perform the API token. And as you see here, this refresh token, I need to use it in order to refresh the access token or generate another one. And how to do that, I need just to copy this and add it to the body format. Okay, so I'll add here refresh key, and I paste the refresh key here. So now if I want to generate another access token because this one gets expired, I just need to perform a post request to the API token refresh, and I only need to include the refresh key value here, and let's do it. And as you see now, I got back a new access token, and if you compare with this one, let's compare the end, and you see this one ends with WBGE, this one ends with UMS0. And now in order to perform any new request, I need to use this one, because if I use this one, the old one, to get the posts, for example, let's get it and try. It tells me that access token is expired, so I need to use the new one. It's pasted here, and then perform another GET request, and as you see, I got all the posts that I previously stored. So that's it, guys, for this tutorial. I hope it was useful, you learned something new, and if you have any question, please leave it in the comment below. And if you like the content and you're looking forward for more videos like this, please like and subscribe, and until the next one.